All right, class. So we just completed our opening assignment. This you should already have out. We are going to continue our discussion about equivalent ratios. We started talking about ratios yesterday and the day before, a little bit about what ratios are. And this is just going to be kind of looking at our vocabulary that we've been working on. So follow along, fill in what I write, you write. So it says a ratio is we need to put multiplicative. Now, multiplicative sounds like it's a big fancy schmancy word. It basically just means multiply. So well, it'd help if I would have spelled it right. Don't worry about words that look very big because they're always just an extension to something that you already know. So we had talked about ratios and that there are three different ways to write the ratios. We can write it with the word to. We can write it with the dot dot or what's also known as a colon, or we can write it as a fraction. Okay, so know that each time that you are dealing with a ratio, that those ratios can be written in three different ways. Now, equivalent. So, equivalent, if we look at the word equivalent, we know equivalent sounds a lot like equal. Okay. So, they have the same values. Okay. The same values. So, what we're doing, and we've got 4 to 5, 8 to 10. So, from here to here, I have multiplied by 2. From here to here, I have multiplied by 2. So what I've done is I've just taken my ratio that I have, multiplied both of my numbers by the same number to get an equivalent ratio. Did the same thing here. I took 4, I multiplied it by 3, I multiplied 5 by 3, and that gave me the 15. All right, so let's look at this down here. It says create two ratios that are equivalent to the ratios below. So here it tells me already I have to come up with two ratios. So it tells me I'm going to have two different answers for each of my problems. So looking at my first one, I have 7 to 11. All right. Now I can multiply by 2, and that's going to give me 14 by 22. Now I could also multiply both of them by 3. Now you could multiply it by whichever you would like. I just try to stick with the lower numbers. Seems like they're easier to deal with as far as coming up with my answers, especially if I'm not allowed to use a calculator. All right, so let's look at question number 2. We're going to do the same thing. Let's multiply this by 2, and let's multiply this by 2. Now, 18 by 2, it may not be something easy for us to do. So we can come over here and multiply it out to find what 18 times 2 is. So we've got 2 times 1, that gives me 2, plus the 1 will give me 3. So this is going to be 36, 2, and then 12 times 2, that's one of our numbers that we have learned, or one of our multiplication facts that we have learned, and that's 144. Now, let's multiply it both by 3. All right, so 18 times 3, so we're going to multiply that. We've got 8 times 3 is 24. Carry my 2, 3, plus the 2 gives me 5, so 54 And then 12 times 3 is 36. All right, looking at our next one, number 3, we have 6. We're going to do again, multiply by 2, multiply by 2. So I've got 6 times 2 gives me 12. 10 times 2 gives me 20. So that's my first one. And then I'm going to multiply both by 3. Now remember, you can have a variety of answers for this, depending on what numbers you decide to multiply each of these by. All right, now, so we've got some different ways that we can determine if the ratio is equivalent or not. Okay, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can determine that, and you pick which way is easiest for you to grasp or to remember. So the first way that you could do it is by looking to see, okay, what did I do to 2 to get to 8? Well, that tells me if I've multiplied by 4. Well, if I multiply by 4 here, I have to multiply by 4 also at the bottom, because remember, they get jealous. We got to do one as we do the other. Now, if I take 5 times 4, that also gives me 20. And that's one way to check to see if they are right or if they are equivalent. My second way is by doing the butterfly method. Excuse me. Now here, butterfly method means that I'm going to multiply the 2 of these. So I have 20 times 2. That's going to give me 40. And then I'm going to multiply these 2. 8 times 5, which gives me 40. That also shows that these are equivalent. Now, we're going to do, you pick which way you want to do it. For me, I like to do the butterfly method. Seems like it's just a little bit easier. So here I have 4 times 6. That gives me 24. I have 12 times 3, which gives me 36. Those do not equal the same. So these are not equivalent. All right, let's look at our next one. We've got 6 times 20. 6 times 20 gives me 120. 8 times 15. Now that one I can't do off the top of my head, so we're going to work that one out over here. I've got 8 times 5 gives me 40, carry my 4. I have 8 times 1 is 8, plus my 4 gives me 120, and these are equivalent. So let's go ahead and we're going to put equivalent down here. And we're going to put equivalent here. All right, there are several methods that can be used when working with ratios. So knowing that there are more than one way to get to a lot of these answers, it's just you finding which way is the easiest, or the one that you find is the easiest to come up with your answer.